Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar with top tips for speaking. I'm Anna, and you've already met my co-authors from the All-Star team. We've got Jenny, Cristina, and Beverly. So are you ready to rock and roll? Here we go. Do you remember back when we did that webinar with top tips for teaching teens? And I talked to you about using thunks as one of those bold beginnings. So we're going to start off with today's webinar with a thunk. So I have a question for you. I want you to answer this question. What color is winter? I'm going to give you 30 seconds. I've got my timer here, and I'd like you to speak imagining you were in a real session. Are you ready to go? But hey, hold on. Were you going to do it in English? No, 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 no. And definitely not in Portuguese. I'm sure you've all studied a foreign language at school apart from English. Maybe you studied French, maybe you studied Spanish, maybe you studied German. So I would like you to answer this question in 30 seconds, but in another language. So maybe the language that you are least fluent in. Are you ready? Okay, got the timer going. Off you go. What color is winter? Eh, time's up. I know it's not 30 seconds. I'm sorry, I wasn't really counting. But how did you feel doing that? Even if you didn't get to the actual speaking, at least you were thinking about it in your head. What kind of problems did you face? I actually did this speaking on my own before this session to try it out because I studied French in Canada. And I thought, well, hey, I studied French. Canada's a bilingual country. It's going to be a piece of cake. And it wasn't. I really, really struggled. And I'd like to share with you some of the problems I had with speaking that you may have had as well when you were trying to do this activity, and kind of thinking of our learners in class when we ask them to do a speaking activity. Now, we've got the high stress levels. I mean, no matter what kind of speaking you're doing, even in your native tongue, we always have a high stress level. It's scary. Speaking is scary. Speaking in front of people is scary. And speaking in front of your peers, thinking about our adolescence is even scarier. Can you imagine all of their friends watching them as they speak? So high stress levels. Not a lot of confidence. We lack confidence when we're doing a speaking in another language because we lack language. In our heads, we're thinking, how do you say this? How do you say that? Ooh, what's the word for that? How do I structure this sentence? Which leads to problems of fluency. Then we've got those mm, ah, long pauses, and finally, it's so frustrating because you want to get a message across and it just ain't coming out. The ideas are here and they sound good here, but by the time they come out here, something happens. So these are things that we need to bear in mind when we set up speaking activities for our learners, because these are all obstacles that are in the way of them performing well in a speaking activity. So we're going to address some of these problems. We're going to look at different ways of setting up speaking activities to be able to address these issues. Okay, so we're going to do an activity called Same But Different. I'm going to show you a picture. Haha, do you recognize anyone in the picture? All right, all I want you to do is very quickly, I just want you to look at the picture, and just what can you see in the picture? Imagining you're doing the speaking, just describe what you see in the picture. Right. Now I want you to think. What do you think about this picture? What assumptions can you make? For example, I think he's Anna's son. What other assumptions, guesses can you make about this picture? Right. Now, what do you wonder? What would you like to know? Would you like to know more about these people? Find out things about them that are not clear in the picture? All right, what we have here is a thinking routine that I often use with my students, which is called the See, Think, Wonder. And it's a great structure to give, it's a framework to give your students when you're doing an activity that involves describing a picture. Now, same but different. Here we've got a Venn diagram, and I use them very, very, very frequently with my students when I'm setting up any speaking activity that comes up in the course book. Any question, for example, talk about somebody in your family, for example. So I put students in pairs and I get them to draw a Venn diagram in their notebook. And you can do that too right now because I'm going to give you an activity to do. So we're still working with these two people. I forgot to introduce him. He's my son and he's called San Miguel. All right, so we've got this Venn diagram in our notebook, and I'm going to give you some bits of information about both of us, about San Miguel and about me. So so in class, you would get your students in pairs to discuss this, to talk about, to try and guess which bits of information go with who. So some will be about me, some will be about my son, but we have things in common. So some will be about both. So I'm going to give you a few seconds. Have a look there. What do you think? Where do you think these things go on the Venn diagram? All right, you've got some ideas? Now, it's not enough to tell students, okay, do this speaking together. Because as we've seen before in the problems that they experience in speaking, one of them was lack of language. And lack of language is probably one of their biggest problems, which leads to the problems with fluency and not being able to get message across. And we definitely don't want them doing it in Portuguese. So how do we address that? We need to provide our students with language that will help them carry out the task. So, for example, to do the task, we might give them some expressions, some phrases that they can use while they're working in pairs. For example, do you think San Miguel likes Netflix? Who do you think is into cooking, for example? So they have the language to support them in the task. But then the teacher's going to ask them to share their ideas with the class. And here learners are more exposed. So again, high stress levels, remember? So we need to give them time in their pairs to practice reporting back how they're going to give feedback to the class. So they can rehearse again using useful language. Oh, we think both Anna and San Miguel like going to music festivals, for example. So supporting our learners with useful language. So same but different. Are you curious to find out the answers? Well, here you go. I'm the one that's into Netflix. I'm addicted to music festivals and I love the city. I love when I travel, I'm more into the city. San Miguel, my son, on the other hand, loves cooking, he's into swimming. I can't swim, and he loves nature and the countryside. But we are both an only child, so that's one of the things we have in common. We have a lot more in common. Um, Also, looking at another routine, which is very important, is think. What do you think? Put students in pairs and then give them that opportunity to share and provide them with the language that they need. As I said, you can use Venn diagrams with any activity. Tell your partner about your house. Give them get the Venn diagram. Have them find what they have in common and what's the same and what's different. It gives them a structure and it gives them a meaningful reason to communicate with a clear outcome. Okay, we're going to move on to another one of my favorite activities. We don't have time here to do it, but I would get students to get a piece of paper and I would dictate a picture. We don't have time to draw it now, but I'm going to very quickly describe a picture, and what I'd like you to do is just visualize the picture. Are you ready? Okay, I'm just going to look at my picture here because I have it here. So in this picture, there are two girls who are standing next to each other, and they're both smiling. Now, the girl on the right is holding a book, and next to her is a piano. There's a harp behind the girl on the left. And next to the harp, to the left, there's a chair. Above the girl on the left, there's a chandelier hanging from the ceiling. Okay, were you able to visualize that picture? Can you see it? You can do it that way with students. I love doing the drawing, the picture, brings in more creativity, it makes it fun. We have a laugh. Nobody can draw. But then I get students comparing their pictures to see what they have in common, what's different, gives them an extra chance to do some speaking. And I often use this. Well, here's the picture that I've just dictated to you. Notice how I use the word chandelier. And as I'm dictating it to the students, they would obviously ask, what's the o que é uma chandelier? So it gives you an opportunity to pre-teach vocabulary. Now I use this picture the dictation with pictures that we have in our course book. So before going into the course book, I dictate the picture, we do the drawing, we do that comparing. But what I've done when I was dictating was I've provided students with a model. Students need models for their speaking. And they need to kind of listen out to the language that it's expected from them. They need the vocabulary. So this activity enables me to provide my learners with a model in a fun way. We're going to quickly look at another one of my favorites, and I learned this from Penny the great Penny at a conference one year. So what we do here is we give learners a picture, any picture. We put them in groups of, it can be pairs or threes, and what they have to do is describe the picture orally. Just, say as many things as they can about this picture. One learner, one of the students in the group, will have to tally up the description. So every time they hear something about the picture, it's just tick, tick, tick. They're all speaking and somebody's ticking everything that they say. So you stop at the end of a minute and then it's checking how many things were they able to say. All right, this is sort of a competition, except that they're not going to be competing with other groups in the class. Instead, they're going to be competing with themselves, because what you do next is give them another picture and you tell them, now you're going to do the same. You're going to describe this picture. You're going in your groups and you're going to try and say as many things as you can about this picture. But now you want to get more information than you got with the previous picture. So let's imagine with this picture, you were able to say 10 things about the picture. Well, here you have to say more than 10. Now, the idea here of competition is that they're trying to improve their performance and they're kind of repeating the task. They're doing a similar task, but they want to get better. And this often helps them with fluency. And you'll notice that the second time they do it, they will do much better than in the first try. All right. Do you remember the question at the beginning of our session? What color is winter? So I'm going to give you an opportunity now to actually answer the question, but in English. What color is winter? Did you say orange? Did you say red? Did you say brown? It could be. Or did you say white? Did you say gray? It could be. I mean, winter can be any color you, depending on where you are. Or how you see it. I mean, these two pictures were taken at the same place with just a difference of a few days. Go back to tasks, repeat tasks. Task repetition helps learners with fluency. Mario Lejeune in this interview, and I've mentioned him before, he says that when he's playing, rehearsing a piece on the piano, he practices and practices. He repeats and repeats. And the more he repeats, the more fluent the song or the piece of music becomes. We need to give our students a chance to do task repetition. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the same class, in the same lesson. You can do it at the beginning of the lesson and then swap partners, do it again at the end. Or maybe you might want to start with that question or the task, whatever speaking it is, in the following lesson, or come back to it a few lessons later. Again, we're working on fluency. The more they do it, the more confident they become. Or give the question a little bit of a twist, but task repetition. All right. And I have to bring Bruce Springsteen here. He's the love of my life. My husband knows it's okay. And there's that famous song where he says, "You can't start the fire without a spark." And that's what we need to do in our lessons and with speaking. We're not changing the world. We're not changing what we're doing. We're just adding little tweaks, changing the tasks a little bit, giving them a little bit more structure and addressing those problems they have. And with that spark, there they go. We have a fire. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you very soon. Stay safe. Thank you.